So you're probably aware of the new free, extremely easy to use astro processing software called AstroWizard. And I've featured it on the channel a few weeks ago, but because it's already gotten so much better since then, I want to feature it again. And in particular, I want to make it process the same images as the free and open source software called Siril, as well as the very expensive piece of software called PixInsight, which have been like mainstays of astrophotography processing for years. So to get back a bit to AstroWizard itself, AstroWizard is a very young piece of software that is basically free or donationware if you want to give donations to its creator Luke from the Lucomatico channel. Full disclosure, Luke and I are friends, so I might not be completely objective, but if you know me, I've been using PixInsight and recommending PixInsight for years and years and years. So yeah, I think I'm quite balanced and I can be quite objective in my opinion. So anyway, I wanted to basically use AstroWizard, see how the flow is these days, where its strengths and weaknesses and potentially, feature requests or recommendations to Luke are, and compare it to my very quick processing workflows that I have on PixInsight and on Siril, because I've made videos about on-rails kind of workflows that work for pretty much all of your images. I'll put the link up above and down in the description to the PixInsight one, and also my very recent one for Siril, so you can have an idea of how the workflows interact with Siril and PixInsight, and compare to AstroWizard. The rules I have for this time is that AstroWizard does rely, it has alternatives too, but it does rely on RC Astro tools, Blur Exterminator, to do AI-based deconvolution, Noise Exterminator to do AI-based denoising, and then Star Exterminator to do AI-based star removal. So I'll be using RC Astro in AstroWizard, in PixInsight, and in Siril, and I'll try to keep all of my processing as quick as possible in each of those. First, let me introduce you to the images that we want to process today. So I have images from one-shot color cameras, because I think a lot of people who will be using AstroWizard are smart telescope users, are one-shot color camera users. And so that's why I got those images. So all of those are taken by me from Tokyo. So one of the most light polluted cities on the planet. So they're kind of like a worst case scenario, and they're very difficult to process in the first place. So that gives you an idea of what we're having to work with. Here we have the galaxy M33, the Triangulum galaxy. We have here the heart of the Heart Nebula. So this was taken with a dual band filter and a 585 sensor. This guy was a 533 sensor. And this guy is a 571 sensor APS-C, and obviously the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, all of Subaru, all of that good stuff. So those are the images that we'll be working with. And I will show you the results, but first I want to show you like the typical process through AstroWizard when processing, for instance, this image of the Heart Nebula that was taken with an H-alpha plus oxygen 3 dual band filter, because I think this is one of the areas where AstroWizard absolutely shines. First, where do you get AstroWizard? You get it from here, astrowizard.lucomatico.com. Download for Windows. It's just going to be an executable. You just run it. There's no installation, anything like that. Siril has an installer. You can download it from siril.org. And PixInsight is from pixinsight.com. Siril is free. AstroWizard is free. Siril is open source. PixInsight is something like 300 something euros. And to be fair, it's probably been my most used purchase in the hobby. I've purchased it more than 10 years ago, and it's been an invaluable tool. So AstroWizard, when you run it, you get something like this. So you can just load the image. So once I click on load image, I can choose the file that I want to select. Last time I used AstroWizard, it didn't support the PixInsight file format XISF, which was too bad. It was a bit painful for me, because I used PixInsight to stack a lot of my images. But now it's supported, so it will be able to open the XISF file And by the way, the folder in which the file is, that's where AstroWizard will save temporary files for each of the steps that you use. So don't be like me when I first opened like the Pleaides image, which is relatively large. Don't use a network drive. Make sure to have the file locally for AstroWizard, otherwise it can be a bit painful. So here it is, we've opened the image, and does the image look all one color? Yes, it does. So I can say yes, or I can say I'm not sure. Let me pick between like this super green image or that guy. Yeah, I'm gonna select that guy on the right. That makes sense, right? And here we go, we have the heart of the Heart Nebula. And I'll even tell it like it's one-shot color plus dual band, right? So that's how it goes. Next step. And I like how everything is called a spell. It's not a process, it's a spell. It's like AstroWizard is helping you. It's fun. It tries to keep processing fun. So here we want to crop the image. So normally there are some stacking artifacts. I'll just crop it by 2.5%. And here we go. Honestly, I kind of would like to just be able to, drag and drop and select my cropping area rather than having to go through all of that, but I see where this is coming from. And here we also have the ability to do bin 2x2. Now this image was drizzled twice, and I don't really have the seeing to support that amount of drizzling, but I noticed that if I run blur exterminator or deconvolution on the drizzled image, so the higher resolution image, and then I resample it down, I keep a lot of the details, the additional details that Blur Exterminator was able to get by having access to such a high resolution image. Here, that's a limitation of AstroWizard because it really aims at being very simple. Let me resample at the very start, not like after I've run Blur Exterminator. So it would be nice, I don't know, to have like access to a satchel. Like if we're talking about spells, like a satchel of spells like D&D or components D&D style, where you can re-access some older tools without having to go undo the image. But for now, I'll just bin 2x2 so that I go back to the initial resolution of my image. Then I can go to the next step. And here we're going to run Graxpert. And Graxpert is just like a free tool that you do need to install. So before you use AstroWizard, you'll need to go to the settings at the top right, and you'll need to select your Graxpert executable, your RC Astro executable, and if you're using StarNet++, your StarNet Path executable. And so that's something to keep in mind. But here we have Graxpert has run. And I can go now to the next step, which is background neutralization. So I'll just run the background neutralization. Technically, I think after Graxpert, you don't really need to do that, but it doesn't hurt either. And this is just, to get rid of the green tint. And if I were to do a linked stretch right now, the green tint would no longer be there because we've done both the background and or the background removal and the background neutralization. So let's go to the next step, and each time it really gives you some information about what's going to happen. So for me, as I mentioned already, I'm going to use Blur Exterminator and just click on Normal, let Blur Exterminator do the work, and there immediately you can see we have more details and the stars are much tighter than they were. We ran an AI-powered deconvolution. We can compare to the original. Yeah, it's a fairly big difference. But even in the nebulosity, there's a lot more details, right? So now I can go to the next step, and that's where the wizard is awesome because it really gives us a workflow to just follow without wondering, like, what's my next tool to use? What's the next process I should open? How do I apply this to this image? What mask should I be using? It's kind of like doing everything behind the scenes. And by the way, something that is very impressive is that AstroWizard is basically entirely vibe coded. So coded by AI, but under the direction of an experienced astrophotographer, Luke, who has spent like literally hundreds of hours on this already. Because yes, vibe coding sounds easy, but then that's basically saying that product management in software is easy, and that's my main job in real life. So in real life, I vibe code using engineers. So it's a bit similar when you're doing a vibe coding for something like AstroWizard, except that your engineer is super smart and super dumb at the same time. So that was a lot of work for Luke. So if you want to support him, he does have like donation links in the software. So if you want to do that, that's really nice. If you want to help me, by the way, you can leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, join the channel as a member, join my Patreon. The link is down in the description. Or if you're planning on buying anything from Agena Astro, High Point Scientific, First Light Optics, etc., if you do so after clicking one of the links that I have down in the description, it will help me out at no cost to you. And you can also buy me a coffee in the description. Anyway, let's go back. So the next step is noise reduction. And here we have the choice if we're going the free route between Graxpert AI and Noise Exterminator. This time I'll be using Noise Exterminator. Graxpert AI is very competent as well as at noise reduction, just so you know. So we'll just use with the normal. The normal one will actually run Noise Exterminator twice. Like it will run it once, take the output, run it a second time, so it gets very smooth images like that, which is kind of neat as well. So with that, we can go to the next step, which is a critical step, which is the stretch wizard. And the stretch wizard, you also have like manual stretches, but I really recommend going through the stretch wizard. You can choose which one looks better to you, linked or unlinked. For me, like worth a look for strong dual bands casts, yeah, I like this one, unlinked. And then among all of those, like something that Luke really has made magic is this deep stretch, which I find pretty amazing. You also have the custom stretch. You can click on more, make it into a deep stretch like this, and actually change the amount of stretching on the deep stretch if you want to do that. So there's quite a bit of customizability here. And it's not just some AI software that tells you like, yeah, this is what you want. No, you get to choose what is closest to what you want, and then you can even do a custom version of that. So really well done. I can click on deep here because that's what I really like here. And now we're done with the stretching. So we can go to the final polish, which by the way has tons of stuff that you can do. And one thing that's very important about this that might not be obvious to all users is that each step you do in there, you can actually undo and redo via the buttons here at the top. Or you can undo the entire step by this or by going back. But really you have those tiny undos and redos that are very important. So anyway, first step is very nicely told us like, yeah, I want to remove the stars for now because we're going to be processing the nebulosity. And here I have the stars removed. And now, because we have a dual band filter, I want to convert that to a Hubble palette. And this is basically using narrowband normalization by Bill Blanchen in the background. And of course, Luke integrated that into his software with permission. And now we have colors that are much closer to the Hubble palette, but they're not super punchy, right? So that's where we have stuff like yellow to copper and gold. Bam, immediately we get that better color. I can try it a second time. Yeah, even a third time. Okay, I might be going overboard, so I'm gonna undo the third time. And I can also go blue to teal. No, I actually prefer the standard blue. So I'm gonna undo. We can do some masked saturation a couple of times, right? To make everything a bit more punchy. We can say like, I want to make it pop. And on all of those, by the way, you have a little strength slider that is available. So if when you make it pop, it's too powerful for you, you can amend that and redo it. So that's very nice. And then all of those things at the bottom, by the way, they are curves that are masked automatically based on various parameters in the image with the wizard's spells really about that, which I would need to be doing like manually in PixInsight, or a bit less manually in Siril, but here it's just like done. I don't need to care about it. And if you click on the little icon next to each, you can see the actual curve that is being applied to the image, and you can even edit it. So here, my dynamic pop, I think it popped too much, like the contrast was too much, so I could go to that curve and like make it a bit less poppy, right? And then apply it. So now we did a pop, but less than the dynamic pop. So this is something where there's much more control than the last time I used AstroWizard. And this is honestly very much welcome. So now I can place back the stars, replace the stars, and you can even say like whether you want the stars to be a bit less visible in the image, basically reducing them a little bit so that they don't distract too much from the luminosity. And here we go, the stars are back. And what I do notice that the stars are kind of greenish, so I will run the green be gone on the entire image. It would be kind of nice to be able to run green be gone on just the stars, right? So that I don't need to impact the actual image. But you can see like in a few minutes with very little effort, with the way that the spells are arranged while still providing a lot of control to the end user, I get this image in the SHO palette. I think this is absolutely wonderful. And just for reference, when I was preparing this video, I already had processed it like that. So you can see the differences in my two processes with AstroWizard. The only difference is that this guy has more contrast, the one we did together. So my tastes changed a little bit in the middle, but that's what it looks like. What did this image look like when I used Siril and when I used PixInsight? Full disclosure, the narrowband images in PixInsight require a lot of work because of needing to create color masks and stuff like that. And in Siril, it's a bit easier thanks to the Siril version of the Astro Color Mixer script that I added to Siril, which allows curves on masks. So it makes things a bit easier. With that in mind, let's go to Siril. This is the image that I got in Siril. And you can see it is very similar, right? I mean, AstroWizard did a wonderful job. The biggest difference, I would say, with Siril is that because Siril I have full control, I was better able to get the colors out, especially the blues. I really like to rescue the blues in my narrowband images, but it definitely was a lot more work in Siril than it was in AstroWizard. That said, I made sure that my processing in Siril for all of the images, and PixInsight as well, took 10 minutes or less. But I'm a very experienced processor. And one of the things that really made Siril easier to use, as I mentioned, I'll put it full screen quickly, was the Astro Color Mixer script that really let me play with the colors directly. So that was a huge advantage of Siril, but it requires knowledge and you need to learn to use it, right? Compared to AstroWizard. Another thing, by the way, that's here, just FYI, I put the link down in the description, but I have an AstroWizard style stretch wizard. So if I open an image in Siril and I go to scripts, Python script, scripts, and AstroWizard stretch wizard, does that look familiar? And this is of course with Luke's permission, right? So I implemented a script where you can have the similar, very easy to use wizard and apply the stretch on the image, a bit like we were able to on AstroWizard. Although, to be honest, I did not use that script in Siril while preparing the images for this video. Okay, so this is the result that I got within 10 minutes. So I really limited myself to short times because otherwise I could spend hours in Siril and in PixInsight getting stuff perfect. And I can get better results than AstroWizard like that. But come on, like AstroWizard in 5 minutes without really doing much besides choosing what looks better to me, I get this. This is really impressive. Now PixInsight for the same image, here it is. So this is my PixInsight image. One of the things, by the way, that I used in both PixInsight and Siril is the Lighthouse script. So I've already presented the Lighthouse script on my channel before, but it really gives Lightroom kind of stuff, in particular clarity and contrast, vibrance, can let me manipulate colors a bit more like selectively. It's a lot of fun actually to use those scripts. And that's why if I zoom in, I have like more punchy details all around. And the colors I think are even better controlled in PixInsight. But as you can see from the background, I have masks. I have color masks that I had to use, that I had to prepare, that I had to apply, and then I manually had to do curves all over the place for this. It was a lot of work, and I had to rush because I had my 10-minute limit to see what I'm able to do as a very experienced processing astrophotographer with this image. So one last time, this is PixInsight. This is Siril, which also made use of the Lighthouse script in addition to the Astro Color Mixer script. And then this is AstroWizard. Honestly, pretty amazing what we're able to do so quickly with AstroWizard. Okay, now let's look at the next image. And the two next images, they show one weakness with AstroWizard that I think is very easy to fix. I mean, it's not very easy to fix, but it is fixable. Although it might make AstroWizard a bit more complicated to use. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by showing you the processed version of those images in each. So the image that we're going to look at next is the Pleaides. Let's go to the Pleaides APS-C size sensor with C6 hyperstar. I think it's 11 hours of data from Tokyo. I'll start with the results in PixInsight in less than 10 minutes. That was actually very quick to process. The result in PixInsight, I think, is excellent. I mean, I really love that result. I think it's actually much better than my initial processing of this image, and I fell in love with this image all over again. And this is a difficult image to process to some extent because it has some concentric rings that kind of come from poor flat calibration from the C6 hyperstar. So it's very nice to see that. And I will say, the biggest thing that made this image pop out so well in PixInsight is the multi-scale adaptive stretch process in PixInsight. That thing is magic, especially for one-shot color images like this one. I love the result that I got in PixInsight with, as an experienced astrophotographer, very little effort. Then we have the same thing, but in Siril. And in Siril, it almost looks like I was less aggressive on the stretching. Actually, I kind of want to quickly go to stretches, curves, and do a little pop curve, since this processing in Siril was also very quick, like around 6-7 minutes. When I did it, I feel I can do that without cheating too much. Normally, I would want to remove the stars and place them back, etc. But yeah, this is what we can get in Siril very quickly. Also, a very decent image that we get. I really love those results that I'm able to get. And again, free tools in Siril. And I did make use in Siril as well of the Lighthouse script. Okay, so that's all good. What about the wizard? What did the wizard accomplish? And here is what I got in the wizard, what the wizard got me. And objectively, it's pretty amazing. One of the things I really have to say about the wizard is the stretch. The stretch wizard is really amazing, and all of those cool little curves are also really well done. And this is the result that we get, and you can see all of the nebulosity is there, everything is there. The only thing really that's lacking is a perfect color balance. And this is because the wizard does the color balance the old style way, based on like the stars in the image and an average like white balance, that kind of stuff. And so we don't get the deep blue that is really the color of the Pleiades that we can get in either Siril or PixInsight, because Siril and PixInsight, they can do the spectrophotometric color calibration, which is basically looking at the stars in the image and comparing the stars with the actual star spectrums that have been measured of the stars and applying the white balance based on that, which gives us the real, effectively, colors for one-shot color. And so I'm not quite able to achieve that with the wizard, but it still doesn't remove the fact that this is a very, very impressive image. So again, this is the wizard, what we got in 5 minutes on the Pleiades. This is PixInsight, what we got on the Pleiades also in just a few minutes. And this is Siril, what we got on the Pleiades. All, I think, very interesting result. It's kind of fun when I look at the difference between Siril and PixInsight, because I use very similar tools and yet I end up with a very different result. Interesting. Yeah, and going back to AstroWizard again, I think when I switch back right now, it's immediately obvious, like the color balance. I wish I could, yeah, I wish. And yes, I did use the auto color balance here to try and balance things out. And I did use the green be gone as well, but no, it didn't quite work out. But still an amazing result with the wizard. Now the final image we're going to look at is M33, sorry. The starting image is this guy here, and after some processing using my standard PixInsight flow, I got this, which is pretty nice. We do have some very nice colors in there, details within the image, nebulae within the galaxy. It's a pretty cool image, especially when you consider that it's been taken from Tokyo, very light polluted area. So that's my PixInsight version of that object. Let's look at what I accomplished in Siril. Siril, I was apparently more aggressive on the contrast and the colors, but you can see a very similar version here. By the way, little trick for you in Siril. In PixInsight, it's very easy to do masked saturation by creating a mask, blurring it, manipulating it with histogram transformation, applying it on the image, and then during your changes. Siril in this current version doesn't support masks. It will in the next version, but that means you can actually use for mask the Astro Color Mixer script, because you can create your own custom mask. Make sure you have low saturation protection to completely off. You can have, I'll show starless just to show you what it looks like. Starless, I'm going to look at the band mask for now, which is the color mask, and I'm going to put the start hue and the end hue, both of them to 300, and set the mask type to linear, and make sure, of course, that I select custom color range here in the menu, and you can see we select everything, right? And then once I know that I'm selecting everything with the custom color range mask, I can enable a range mask, say that I want my highlights, and look at the combined mask, and then I can change the low of the highlights until I select only the nebulosity. Of course, in this scenario, we would have removed the stars as well, and I can make sure to soften my mask quite a lot. And there, I have a mask that's selecting only the galaxy, and so when I go to luminance, I can go to custom color range, I can apply curves just to that area, I can do saturation just to that area, and in the exact same way, we can do a masked background where we can desaturate everything by selecting the shadows and then playing with the high level of the shadows until we don't select the galaxy, right? So it's all possible with the Astro Color Mixer to do those luminance masks kind of indirectly, and then do curves or saturation on that. Just so you know, in Siril with my port and enhanced version of the Astro Color Mixer script for PixInsight. So anyway, long story short, this is what we're getting on the Galaxy compared to PixInsight. Overall, I think the stretch on PixInsight with the multi-scale adaptive stretch was better than in Siril. And I was more subtle, let's say, with the colors. And Siril, we got this much more punchier colors. The stretch is slightly less good. And then let's look at AstroWizard. AstroWizard on the Galaxy, we see a scenario that's very similar to the Pleiades. We got absolutely very excellent stretch, actually. I can make the sky a bit darker, actually, to even enhance it better. You can see the contrast getting much better. And I could try like a masked saturation again, but if I do it too much, it's going to get a bit too crazy in the Galaxy. And this is where we can see that, again, we have, like I already did, the color balance, and we have a general color balance that is not a spectrophotometric color calibration, so we cannot get the super nice blues as well as the very nice reds on the H-alpha of the nebulae within the galaxy itself that we can get with either PixInsight or Siril, right? I really like the colors that I achieved in Siril actually. Yeah, so this is again the galaxy in Siril, free software with RC Astro being used. The galaxy in PixInsight, expensive software with expensive RC tools being used. And then the Wizard, free software, super easy, next, choosing just what is best for you and then playing around on this final polish. Again, stretch is amazing. I wish we could have spectrophotometric color calibration in there. But still, this is such a good image because remember, we started from this here. This is what we started with. And then in 5 minutes, and no real processing knowledge required, the Wizard got us there with his spells. Amazing stuff. So this AstroWizard software free, I think it's a genius idea. I remember years ago Star Tools. Remember Star Tools? It had the same idea of going through a workflow, and it was too early. There was not RC Astro or Graxpert yet, so it didn't quite work out. But now that Graxpert, RC Astro are available, like really Luke had this great idea of making this workflow, spending hours and hours to have like those custom curves that get applied to your image during the final polish, the stretch as well, which is quite amazing, like putting his knowledge into building that software, making it available for free or as donationware if you want to give Luke a donation. I'll have the link down in the description, of course, to AstroWizard, and getting it there, it's especially good for beginners. And honestly, like even for an experienced person like me, if it had like spectrophotometric color calibration in there, wow, yeah, it would get even more incredibly good. Still, I think overall on each of the images within the 10 minutes that I allocated myself, I was able to get what I would consider to be better results in either PixInsight or Siril, but I have years of experience, especially for PixInsight, and PixInsight is not free. And I also had to do a lot of work, like the narrowband image on PixInsight. I had to create those masks very quickly and work with those curves very quickly to stay within my time limit. So yeah, definitely more effort when going to Siril or PixInsight, whereas AstroWizard is like, it's so well built for a beginner-friendly or just like a human-friendly, I would say, approach. Like really, kudos to Luke for building that. Amazing work. With that, let me know what you think down in the comments. Will you be using AstroWizard? Have you been using AstroWizard? What do you think of it? If you want to support me, you can subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. If you're planning on buying anything from Agena, High Point Scientific, Amazon, etc., if you do so after clicking the links down in the description, it will help me out at no cost to you. And if you want to support me directly, become a VIP member, you can join the channel using the join button next to the subscribe button, or join my Patreon using the link that I have down in the description. Some of my Patreon ranks have access to my videos early and without ads. And of course, you can buy me a coffee as well. There's a link down in the description if you want to just support me one time. And quite a few people have bought me coffees, or more than coffees, like a couple of coffees at one time. And I really, really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference. And also my Patreon members, my channel members, as always, thank you so much for your support. All of this is possible thanks to you. With that, I hope this was interesting. Don't forget, whenever you can, to look up at the stars, and I'll see you next time.